Admiral Zwaxthara stood on the bridge of his massive warship, looking at the screens that showed strange ships floating in space. These ships looked old and broken, like someone had built them from spare parts found in a junkyard. The Admiral had conquered many worlds in his long life, but he had never seen anything quite like this. "Sir," said Communications Officer Veltar, his voice shaking slightly. "We sent our usual message to these ships. We told them to give up and join our empire, just like we always do." The Admiral nodded. This was how things worked. The Galactic Empire would find new worlds and new people, tell them to surrender, and then make them part of the Empire. It had worked this way for thousands of years. No one ever said no to the Empire. "What did they say back?" the Admiral asked. Veltar looked confused and a little scared. "They sent back a message in our language, but it was very strange. They said, 'Nu com who dis?'" The Admiral's 4 eyes blinked one after another. In all his 300 years of life, no one had ever talked to the Imperial Navy like this. Most species either begged for mercy or tried to fight. None of them had ever sounded so casual about it. "Are you sure that's what they said?" the Admiral asked. "Yes, sir. And there's more. They keep sending us messages, but they're not making much sense." Meanwhile, on the human ship called Definitely Not Stolen, Captain Hyunwoo was having the time of his life. He sat in an old chair that he had found on another ship and fixed up with some metal tape and a soft cushion. His ship was not pretty to look at, but it worked, and that was what mattered. "Did you guys hear that?" Hyunwoo said to his crew, laughing. "Those big fancy ships want us to give up and become their prisoners or something." Engineer So Young was working under a control panel, trying to fix something that had broken again. She poked her head out and looked worried. "Should we be scared? Their ships are really big and we're just us." Hyunwoo shook his head and smiled. "Nah, don't worry about it. They probably think we're some kind of important military or something." "Jihoon, remember that music collection we got from those traders last week?" Communications Officer Jihoon grinned and started typing on his computer. "You mean the sea shanty songs? The ones about pirates and sailing ships?" "That's the ones. Start playing them on all the radio channels. Let's give our new friends some good Earth music." Jihoon's fingers danced across his keyboard, and soon the speakers on every Imperial ship were filled with the sound of humans singing old songs about sailing the ocean and looking for treasure. The songs were loud and cheerful, and the humans singing them sounded like they were having a party. Back on the Imperial flagship, Admiral Zwaxthara was getting a headache. The strange music was playing on every communication channel, and his officers were all looking at him like they expected him to know what to do. "Sir," said Tactical Officer Kexval, "should we attack these ships? They're clearly not taking us seriously." The Admiral thought about this. The human ships looked like they would fall apart if someone sneezed on them, but something about this whole situation felt wrong. In his experience, when things felt wrong, it was usually because they were about to get much worse. "Sir," Veltar spoke up again, "they're sending us another message." "What does it say this time?" "They're asking if we want to hear their favorite song about a whale hunt. They say it's very exciting and has a good beat for dancing." Admiral Zwaxthara rubbed his temples with 2 of his hands while using the other 2 to hold onto his command chair. The Imperial Navy had detailed manuals for every possible situation. There were rules for dealing with hostile aliens, peaceful aliens, and even completely crazy aliens. But there was nothing in any manual about aliens who responded to invasion threats by offering to share their music collection. On the human ship, the crew was having a great time. So Young had fixed the broken control panel and was now dancing to the music while she worked. Jihoon was trying to teach the ship's computer to sing along with the sea shanties. Captain Hyunwoo was drinking coffee from a mug that said "World's Okayest Captain," and thinking about what to do next. "You know what?" Hyunwoo said to his crew, "I think these Empire people are probably just lonely. When was the last time anyone played them some good music? Let's send them our whole collection. Maybe they'll like the songs about space pirates better than the ones about ocean pirates." "Should we also send them the joke collection that Sergeant Park recorded last week?" asked Jihoon. "Why not? Everyone likes a good joke." As more music and now comedy routines began broadcasting across all Imperial channels, Admiral Zwaxthara realized that his carefully planned first contact mission had somehow turned into the strangest day of his very long military career. He looked at his officers, who were all staring at him with expressions that clearly said, "What do we do now, boss?" The Admiral had no idea what to do now. This was definitely not in the manual. Captain Vexmore stood on the bridge of his beautiful warship, the Eternal Glory. Everything on his ship was perfect and clean. The walls were white and shiny, the floors had no dust, and every piece of equipment worked exactly as it was supposed to. This was how Imperial ships should look, he thought with pride. "Sir," said his assistant, "we are getting close to the human ship. Should we prepare the formal greeting?" Captain Vexmore straightened his uniform and checked his appearance in a mirror. The Empire had sent him to show these primitive humans how advanced and cultured the Imperial civilization was. Once the humans saw his magnificent ship and learned about Imperial technology and culture, they would surely want to join the Empire immediately. "Yes, prepare everything. Make sure the ship looks perfect. These humans have probably never seen anything as advanced as Imperial technology." As the Eternal Glory moved closer to the human ship, Captain Vexmore looked out the window and frowned. The human ship looked terrible. It was covered in patches of different colored metal, and some parts seemed to be held together with tape. There were strange markings painted on the sides, and what looked like laundry hanging from some of the antenna. "How do these humans even fly in that thing?" wondered the captain's assistant. "They probably don't know how to build proper ships," Captain Vexmore replied. "That's why the Empire needs to help them. We will teach them the right way to do things." When the Imperial shuttle landed in the human ship's docking bay, Captain Vexmore was surprised to see a human woman running toward them with a huge smile on her face. She was wearing clothes that were clean but looked like they had been repaired many times. "Hello. Welcome. I'm Captain Minji," she said, bouncing on her feet like an excited child. "Come on, let me show you around our ship." Captain Vexmore had expected the humans to be nervous and respectful when meeting Imperial representatives. Instead, this human woman seemed more excited than a student on a field trip. "This is the borrowed time," Captain Minji said as she led them through corridors that made Captain Vexmore feel uncomfortable. The walls were different colors where patches had been added, and there were strips of bright tape everywhere. Some of the lights were different shapes and colors, and the floor was made of several different types of metal plates. "Sorry about the mess," Captain Minji continued cheerfully. "We're still working on installing the new gravity plating we found last week. It's really nice stuff, much better than what we had before." "Found?" Captain Vexmore asked, though he was not sure he wanted to know the answer. "Oh yeah. Some guys in fancy ships tried to arrest us for something silly, but they had such great equipment. We couldn't let it go to waste after they left, you know?" Captain Vexmore felt a cold feeling in his stomach. "They left?" "Well, they ran away really fast after we started asking if they wanted to be friends. But they dropped some really good gravity generators and power cells. Want some coffee? I made it from real Earth beans." Before Captain Vexmore could answer, Captain Minji was already pouring a dark liquid into a cup that looked like it had been repaired with metal glue. "Fair warning though, Earth coffee is pretty strong. It might hurt your stomach if you're not used to it." Suddenly, a man covered in oil and grease climbed out of what appeared to be a hole in the wall. He was grinning and holding a tool that looked like it had been made from several other tools welded together. "Captain Minji," the man called out happily. "Great news. Those Imperial plasma conduits we installed are working perfectly. We managed to boost our engine efficiency by 30%. Captain Vexmore felt both of his hearts stop beating for a moment. You installed Imperial plasma conduits? In this ship?" "Yeah. This is Taemin, our chief engineer," Captain Minji said proudly. "He's really good at making things work better than they're supposed to." Taemin wiped his hands on a rag and nodded enthusiastically. "Your people build good stuff, but it's way too complicated. We took out all the unnecessary parts and connected the main power directly to the drive system. It works much better now." Captain Vexmore stared at the human engineer in horror. "You removed the safety systems? All those things? Yeah, they just slow everything down. Don't worry, we know what we're doing. We only had 3 small explosions during the installation, and nobody got hurt badly." "Nobody got hurt badly?" Captain Vexmore repeated weakly. "Taemin just lost his eyebrows, but they're already growing back," Captain Minji said cheerfully. "Your technology is really impressive, but you guys make it way too complicated. Sometimes the best solution is to just hit something with a wrench until it works the way you want it to." As Captain Vexmore looked around the human ship, he began to realize that everything he had been told about primitive species was wrong. These humans had somehow taken advanced Imperial technology and made it work better by treating it like broken furniture that needed fixing. They had turned his people's carefully engineered systems into something that looked like it had been built by enthusiastic children with access to a scrapyard. And somehow, impossibly, it all seemed to be working perfectly. Captain Vexmore took a sip of the coffee and immediately regretted it. As his mouth burned and his eyes watered, he wondered if maybe the Empire had made a serious mistake in trying to contact these humans. Administrative Coordinator Killnose had worked for the Imperial government for 200 years. In all that time he had never met a problem that could not be solved with the proper forms, filed in the correct order and processed through the appropriate channels. He carried with him 15,000 different forms, each one designed to help new species join the Empire in the most organized way possible. His ship, the proper procedure, was filled with filing cabinets, computers and copying machines. Everything was neat and organized just the way Killnose liked it. Today he was going to help the humans become part of the Empire by filling out all the necessary paperwork. This should be simple, Killnose said to his assistant as they approached the human ship. We give them the forms, they fill them out properly, and in 6 to 8 months they become Imperial citizens. It's the same process we've used for every species we've ever encountered. The human ship was called Paperwork is Evil, which Killnose thought was a very strange name for a diplomatic vessel. When he looked at it through his window, he saw that someone had painted large words on the side that said, "Forms are stupid, and why can't we just be friends?" When Killnose boarded the human ship, he was greeted by Captain Donghyun, a middle-aged human man wearing a uniform that looked comfortable rather than official. The captain was holding a single piece of paper and smiling in a way that made Killnose feel nervous. "Welcome to our ship," Captain Donghyun said cheerfully. "I hear you have some paperwork for us to fill out." "That's great because we have some paperwork for you too." Killnose felt relieved. Finally, a species that understood the importance of proper documentation. "Yes, I have brought all the necessary forms for your species to join the Empire. There are 15,000 forms total, and each one needs to be filled out 3 times. He gestured to his assistants, who began wheeling in cart after cart of papers and documents. The forms were organized by category: basic information, cultural assessment, technology evaluation, military capability, trade agreements, and dozens of other important topics. Now, each form must be completed using the official Imperial pen, and Killnose stopped talking when he saw that Captain Donghyun was holding up his single sheet of paper. "That's nice," the captain said, "but we already prepared our application to join your empire. Here it is." Killnose looked at the paper. At the top, in large letters, it said, "Humans are here, deal with it." Below that was a simple drawing of a smiling stick figure giving a thumbs up. At the bottom of the page was a single checkbox next to the words, "Check here to acknowledge human awesomeness." That's it? Killnose stared at the paper in confusion. "Pretty much," Captain Donghyun nodded happily. "Just check the box and we're good to go. Easy, right?" Killnose felt his left eye start to twitch. "This is highly irregular. We have procedures that must be followed. There are standards and requirements and—" "Oh, don't worry," interrupted Communications Officer Hygiene as she bounced over to them with a bright smile. "We filled out all your forms too. We didn't want to be rude and ignore them." She handed Killnose a data pad containing digital copies of all 15,000 Imperial forms. "We got a little creative with some of the questions, but we answered everything you asked." Killnose opened the first form and immediately felt dizzy. Under species classification, the humans had written chaotic neutral space orcs. Under technology level, they had put percussive maintenance class, with a note explaining that this meant hit it until it works. As he scrolled through more forms, Killnose's horror grew. Under government type, they had written organized confusion. Under primary food source, they had listed coffee and whatever we can find in the refrigerator. Under military doctrine, they had written, "Hold my beer and watch this." "What does this mean?" Killnose asked, pointing at the military doctrine answer. "Oh, that's just something we say when we're about to do something really cool or really stupid," Captain Donghyun explained helpfully. "Sometimes it's both at the same time." Killnose continued reading. Under diplomatic philosophy, the humans had written, "Can't we all just get along?" Under economic system, they had put, "We trade stuff for other stuff and sometimes we just give things away because we're nice." The worst part came when Killnose realized that the humans had not just filled out one copy of each form. They had filled out all 3 copies, but each copy had different answers. The first copy was silly, the second copy was completely ridiculous, and the third copy was filled with jokes and funny drawings. "Why are all the answers different?" Killnose asked weakly. "We got bored filling out the same thing 3 times, explained Hygiene. "So we decided to have some fun with it. Did you see the one where we listed our national animal as the majestic space hamster?" Before Killnose could respond, Captain Donghyun announced, "Oh, and we already submitted all the forms through your computer network. We figured that would save time." At that exact moment, alarms started going off on Killnose's ship. His assistant's voice came over the radio. "Sir, the Imperial Administrative Network just crashed. All the computers are smoking. Somewhere far away in the imperial capital, thousands of government computers were trying to process 15,000 forms filled with answers like, "Our national motto is oops, sorry about that," and "We measure time using a system called eventually, and when we get around to it." The artificial intelligence systems that normally processed new member applications began sending error messages that roughly translated to, "I don't understand what's happening and I think I need help." Killnose sat down heavily in the nearest chair and stared at his data pad, which was now displaying a message that said, "Error 404. Sanity not found." War Commander Thek Riot stood on the command deck of his massive battleship, feeling very confident about what was going to happen. In his long military career, he had defeated 47 different star systems. His fleet was the strongest in the galaxy with the best weapons, the best shields, and the best trained soldiers in the Empire. "Today we will show these humans what real military power looks like," he announced to his officers. "They will see our ships and immediately understand that fighting us is impossible." His fleet was truly impressive. 12 giant battleships floated in perfect formation, their weapons charged and ready. Each ship was 3 times bigger than the largest human vessel, and their armor could survive attacks from the most powerful weapons known to the galaxy. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, "the human ships are approaching. They appear to be singing again." War Commander Thek Riot sighed. He had heard about the humans' strange habit of broadcasting music during serious situations. Just ignore it and prepare for standard intimidation protocol. On the human ship called Aggressive Negotiations, Captain Kyung-soo was having a wonderful time. He had never seen such big fancy ships before, and he was genuinely excited to meet the people who built them. "Look at those beautiful ships," he said to his crew. "I bet they took years to build. Hey, open a communication channel." When the channel opened, Captain Kyung-soo waved enthusiastically at the screen. "Hey there. Nice ships. They're really shiny and impressive. Want to see something cool?" War Commander Thek Riot was about to deliver his standard speech about surrender and imperial superiority when something completely unexpected happened. The human ship suddenly started moving very fast, directly toward his flagship. "Sir," shouted his tactical officer, "the human vessel is on a collision course. They're not turning away. They're going to ram us?" War Commander Thek Riot couldn't believe what he was seeing. "That's suicide. Their ship will be destroyed." The human ship hit the Imperial flagship with a tremendous crash. According to all Imperial calculations, the human vessel should have been completely destroyed by the impact. Instead, somehow, it survived and stuck to the side of the Imperial ship like a very determined space barnacle. "How is their ship still in one piece?" demanded War Commander Thek Riot. "Unknown, sir," replied his engineering officer. "Their hull appears to be reinforced with, is that metal tape?" Before anyone could answer, small ships began launching from the human vessel. They looked like mining pods that someone had attached weapons to, and they were heading for the Imperial ship's docking bays. "Sir," called out Tactical Officer Rixval, panic clear in his voice. "The humans are boarding Deck 7. They're coming through the maintenance shafts and the cargo bays and— Wait, is that someone's grandmother?" War Commander Thek Riot looked at the security monitors and saw something that made no sense at all. A group of humans was running through his ship's corridors, but they weren't moving like soldiers. They were moving like they were playing a game, jumping over obstacles and sliding under pipes. And following behind them was an elderly human woman wearing an apron and carrying what looked like a large cooking pan. "Excuse me, boys," the elderly woman said politely as she stepped over an unconscious Imperial Marine. "Don't mind me, I'm just here to make sure you all eat properly and don't get into too much trouble." The Imperial Marines had trained for many different combat scenarios, but none of their training had covered what to do when attacked by someone's grandmother wielding kitchen equipment. Meanwhile, in another part of the ship, Engineering Captain Jae-sung had crawled through the ventilation system and popped out behind a group of Imperial soldiers who were trying to set up a defensive position. "Surprise," he said cheerfully, holding what appeared to be a mining laser that had been modified with spare parts and colorful tape. "Anyone want to discuss surrender terms? We brought cookies." The Imperial soldiers turned around and saw a smiling human covered in grease and dust, pointing a weapon at them that looked like it had been built by someone who had never seen a proper weapon before but had lots of enthusiasm and spare parts. Is that a mining tool?" asked one of the Imperial Marines. "It was," Jae-sung replied happily. "But we made it better. It can cut through almost anything now. We tested it on some asteroids last week and it worked great." Back on the command deck, War Commander Thek Riot was watching his tactical display with growing disbelief. The human ships were engaging his fleet using tactics that made no sense. They were ramming his ships, boarding them with converted mining equipment, and somehow winning fights against vessels that were 10 times more powerful. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. "I don't know, sir," replied his tactical officer. "They appear to be using strategies that aren't in any military database. They're treating this like some kind of game and it's working." On the display, War Commander Thekriot watched as more human ships attached themselves to Imperial vessels like space parasites. From each human ship, crews of enthusiastic humans poured out, treating the invasion like an exciting adventure rather than a life-or-death battle. "Sir," reported his communications officer, "the humans are broadcasting again. They're asking if we want to join them for lunch after the battle is over. They say they have sandwiches." War Commander Thekriot sat down heavily in his command chair and began composing his report to Imperial headquarters. He was going to classify humans as apex predators with severe judgment impairment, and recommend that all Imperial forces avoid them completely. The humans were just too dangerous to fight, not because they were strong, but because they were completely unpredictable and seemed to enjoy everything. High Counselor Kexthran sat at the head of the massive council table, surrounded by the most important leaders in the galaxy. The council chamber was grand and impressive, with tall windows showing the stars and formal seats for representatives from thousands of worlds. But today, everyone looked tired and confused. "Counselors," Kexthran began, holding a thick stack of reports, "we need to discuss what we are now calling the human problem." The other council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. In the past month, reports about humans had been flooding in from all over the Empire, and none of them made any sense. "Let me read you some of the highlights," Kexthran continued, flipping through the papers. "According to these reports, the humans have somehow befriended all of our prisoners. Our detention facilities have been turned into what the humans call social clubs, where prisoners and guards spend their time playing games and sharing stories." Council member Zarplex raised one of his 6 hands. "How is that possible?" "Apparently the humans brought something called board games and taught everyone how to play. Now our most dangerous criminals spend their days playing Monopoly and arguing about rules instead of planning escapes." Intelligence Director Yilmax, a tall alien with purple skin and too many eyes, nodded grimly. "That's not even the strangest part. The humans have accidentally created a galactic economic boom by trading what they call plant matter and primitive audio recordings." "You mean the coffee and music?" asked another counselor. "Yes. Apparently, every species in the galaxy is now addicted to human coffee, and their music has become so popular that some planets have declared holidays just to listen to it. The economy is growing faster than it has in centuries, all because humans are trading beans and songs." High Counselor Kexthran rubbed his temples. "And then there's the military situation. 3 of our naval fleets have reportedly abandoned their posts to join the humans for something called karaoke night." "What is karaoke night?" asked a confused counselor. "From what I understand, it involves singing badly on purpose while drinking beverages that make you feel happy. Our military officers say it's the most fun they've ever had." Just then, the main screen in the council chamber lit up with an incoming transmission. A cheerful human woman appeared, wearing casual clothes and standing in what looked like a party. Behind her, several beings in Imperial military uniforms were laughing and holding drinks. "Hey council folks," the human woman waved energetically. "I'm Captain Su Bin. We're throwing a block party to celebrate our new friendship with the Empire. You're all invited." High Counselor Kexthran stared at the screen. "Captain Su Bin, those appear to be Imperial officers behind you." "Oh yeah, they're great. We taught them how to make Earth food and play human games. Admiral Texmore over there just learned how to make hamburgers, and he's really excited about it." An Imperial Admiral appeared on screen, wearing a chef's hat and grinning. "Council members, you must try this barbecue the humans have invented. It is remarkable." Captain Subin nodded enthusiastically. "We've got Earth music, barbecue, and Navigator Jinwoo found some really cool space formations we want to show everyone. They're like natural fireworks." A voice from off-screen shouted, "We brought actual fireworks too." "That's Jinwoo," Captain Subin explained. "He's our navigator and he loves exploring dangerous places. He wants to take everyone camping near some black holes he found. He says the view is amazing." High Counselor Kexthran felt a headache coming on. "Captain Subin, did you say camping near black holes?" "Yeah. Jinwoo says it's totally safe as long as you don't get too close to the event horizon. We've already got a petition going to make the galactic core a protected heritage site so future generations can enjoy it too." Intelligence Director Yilmax leaned forward. You want to turn the most dangerous region of the galaxy into a tourist destination? Why not? It's beautiful and everyone should get to see it. We could set up viewing platforms and maybe a snack bar. The council members looked at each other with expressions that could only be described as complete bewilderment mixed with resignation. They had spent thousands of years building a careful, organized empire with rules and procedures for everything. The humans had arrived and within weeks had turned everything upside down, but somehow made it more fun and profitable. High Counselor Kexthran stood up slowly. Counselors, I believe we have reached a point where traditional diplomatic solutions will not work. The chamber fell silent except for the sound of the party continuing on the screen. Therefore, Kexthran continued, I motion that we officially declare humanity as galactic neighbors we pretend not to notice. The vote was unanimous. Every single council member raised their hand immediately. As the council session ended and the members began leaving, High Counselor Kexthran's personal communicator made a soft beeping sound. He looked at it and saw a message from Earth. Thanks for being cool about everything. By the way, do you know any good camping spots near Sagittarius A*? Asking for a friend who really loves dangerous vacation destinations. Captain Hyunwoo. Kexthran looked at the message for a long moment, then walked to his private office, poured himself the largest glass of Altarian brandy he could find, and began writing his resignation letter. Outside his window, fireworks were exploding in the shape of smiley faces while human music played softly in the background.